بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله على القوم. أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم. Wow, folks, these last few days, 11 days it's been since Israel, in its tyrannical nature, attacked Iran illegally, and then the retaliation by Iran and what's been following since. Allahu Akbar. Just so much has been unfolding on the stage before us. You know, this global theatric. And today, Donald Trump announcing that he has called for a ceasefire. And there's a post by Iran saying that we refuse this ceasefire. So just wow, so much has been happening about this. One thing for sure, I want to share just some thoughts on all of this, that the world has increasingly just become sick and tired of the tyrannical, dictatorial, terrorist style regime of Israel. I mean, just their MO, they just do not care what they seem to be doing. They act with such impunity. And I feel that in the recent months, so much of the world has turned away from them, got sick and tired of them. People now publicly have found the courage, and this is celebrities, stars, comedians, you name it, to now start saying and calling for free Palestine. And what they've been doing in Gaza, before anything, we make dua Allah just protect the people of Gaza. I mean, it's wallahi beyond human, the level of atrocities. And what Iran did, Iran has been the first country in history to really just, in the words of George Galloway, to give a good spanking. He said to publicly and globally to Israel. And what we've seen so far, the destruction, that at least a third of Tel Aviv has been destroyed. In Haifa, the refineries have been shut down. The power outages, the power plants have been shut down. Significant parts of the port have been shut down. Israel has been, it has faced destruction like never before. And Benjamin Netanyahu has obviously criminalized and prohibited the recording of any of people, making videos and showing the damage, the destruction, so as to keep face. But it's getting out. You can't keep a lid on these things. And that's not to say that Tehran or Iran has not faced or seen destruction. It has. There's been horrific bombings and killings of Iranians and destruction. But they're not, when you it's like, you see, what we're dealing with Iran is an azam, a determination, It is a belief. It is a legacy that they base themselves on going back millennia. And they've seen war. They've seen destruction. Almost the decade of the Iraq-Iran war during the 80s, and the sanctions that have followed, and that's not to say that that they're okay with. It's horrible. War is never good, and there are truly no winners in war. But the impunity that Israel had been conducting itself with, just the world was so sick and tired of it, that when they saw what Iran dealt it, that you could say it brought some coolness to the flames of tyranny that had struck the hearts of spectators worldwide. So, yeah, and it's just been nothing but a game of chess. The Iran clearly showing that the air defense that Israel has is useless in the face of the arsenal that it possesses. That's going to be the Iron Dome, David's Sling, Arrow 2 and 3, THAAD. All of these things have really not, even if they have prevented some, and one may say they've prevented many missiles coming through, yet missiles are coming through. And it's almost virtually impossible to stop the ballistic and hypersonic missiles. It's like when Iran showing off, some of it, when it showed Fatah 1 and 2, this reaches speeds of Mach 15, 15 times the speed of sound. How does anybody stop things like that? And then there's just been this tug of war. And in Arabic, you have this saying, al-harbu sijal, that, it's like a balance, and it comes from the term sajal, and some say it's from drawing buckets from the well, that, one person draws a bucket, then another draws it. And it's also, it's something by the great poet Tarfat ibn al-Abd, where he uses it in his poem, that al-harbu sijal. But Abu Sufyan says it also after the battle of Uhud to Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh, that al-harbu sijal yawmun lana wa yawmun alina. That you see that war, that it seems to, this party strikes, and it's a game of politics that is going on. And Allah reminds us that تِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. And I feel that, what on earth was Israel thinking when it began this war? Because really there is no end to this war. And it seems like there's a number of things potentially, and maybe we'll do a separate on some of these theories. But it appears that maybe Benjamin Netanyahu, the culprit, wallahi alayhi la'natullah, and he's he's not alone, because he has a coalition of just far right ultra, this kind of ultra Zionist cabinet with him, that just want to see nothing but bloodshed and destruction. So maybe that with the collapse of Hezbollah, that and the destruction, the genocidal destruction in Gaza, which has resulted in the collapse of Hamas, and Syria now being removed from the kind of Russian axis. But more importantly to Israel, it's with Jolani, they're not allowing the new conduit of weapons through to Lebanon and Hezbollah. Maybe Netanyahu was thinking that, this is going to be an easy strike. I'll just go in, we'll bomb Iran, strike them when they're down, kill off their military, strike their air defenses. This will be a major win. They will not be able to respond. And even if they do, what are they going to be able to do? We've got Arrow 2, Arrow 3. We've got, David Sling, Iron Dome. The US will come to our aid. People will call for a ceasefire. And it'll be like a victory trophy that he will be able to show to his people that he has attained. Now, the crazy thing is that, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ. They plot, and Allah is the best of planners. Now, they took out 60% of Iran's air defenses. And to their surprise, within 24 hours, it was back up and running. And that seems impossible without foreign aid. So this is where many analysts, international analysts, felt that maybe Pakistan played a role in aiding. And, does that mean and this is not in supplying hardware, but just even the mental power on how do you immediately get back up. So Allahu A'lam what happened, but it seems, Iran was very grateful in their parliament to Pakistan, and the memes on that were hilarious, because if Pakistan did aid them, the last thing they want is to be mentioned publicly. So so that went on, and then Iran has Israel had suggested, regime change. We want regime change in Iran. And as if that's going to happen like this. And Trump being in this, back and forth for days. And Israel clearly wanting to bomb the nuclear sites to show some kind of win. And at that stage, you see there is a kind of Game of Thrones or a chess move played, where Putin comes out and announces that he has hundreds, at least 250 researchers working at the Bushehr Institute, which is the most advanced or amongst the most advanced nuclear sites that Iran has. And he said, and we have another 400 to 500 visiting. So we have something, I think 650, he said, maybe researchers there. And an attack on Russian personnel would be seen as an attack on Russian national security. So that became really a spanner in the works. So, this, all of a sudden, Israel can't attack it. The US can't attack Bushehr. It's off limits. Meanwhile, Pakistan's useless Asim Munir is in America doing whatever he's doing. But I definitely feel that part of the discussion must have been America contemplating using Pakistani airspace, which it's very clear that Pakistan, even if, and I wouldn't trust the Pakistani army with any kind of, I'm sure I don't know about the whole army, but those in charge, I mean, they're just nothing but, just that they would pimp anything, but I guess the way fate has played out, that they themselves are now at the strings and the mercy of China, and China would never allow for American air bases in Pakistan. China practically owns Pakistan now, and which I think, to be honest, is probably a safer bet than the Pakistani army owning it. So I'd rather China owns it than the Pakistani army, or the people like Asim Munir. Khair, that's happened, and Trump, with his kind of bizarre wish and this kind of obsession to be hailed the peace laureate, that he wants this Nobel Peace Prize, which is just absurd. And, and then we've had the bombing of the 3 Iranian nuclear sites, obviously keeping Bushehr now off limits because Russia stepped in and said, well, we've got our researchers there. I just thought, what a chess move. And Israel now can't touch that because it's off limits. It's just crazy what's going on. And even this bombing that America did, I feel in some ways it's kind of just, it may have just been all kind of just like a what we call a control, what is it called, a controlled escalation. That's all. That they basically got the message to Iran saying, we're going to bomb these sites, we're going to disappear, we've done our bit, the pressure comes off us. At the same time, we can tell Israel, you carry on bombing Israel for a little while, till you feel a bit of peace. And we'll tell the world we did our bit and we'll step back. And in turn, you can bomb one of our bases and we'll just evacuate. Because even this attack on Qatar was very controlled. They notified Qatar. Qatar had closed down their airports hours before this strike. They had evacuated this US airbase, not a single injury. I mean, it's all a controlled escalation in order to set the path to de-escalate. And meanwhile, they've been bombing Israel. And so they bombed Ashkelon as well, which is Ascalon, the famous ancestry city of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. So they bombed Ashkelon today, shutting that down. And Israel is really, and I was watching some analysts, and they were highlighting that in spite of so much American US troops stationed around the Gulf, they don't seem to be intercepting the Iranian missiles. So Israel is depleting its arsenal in trying to fight off these missiles and rockets, which are clearly decimating and destroying, wreaking havoc in Israel. Yet all the US the US bases supported that are situated within reach that can intercept. I was watching a lot of analysts mention that they don't seem to be intercepting anything. So that's really fascinating, and just seeing this and where will this go? This does. One thing it brings us to, once again, the verse that Allah reminds us that makaru wa makar Allah, that they might plot and plan, but Allah is the best of planners. And we have to remember that lillahi al-amr min qablu wa min ba'd, that Allah has the whole affair, everything belongs to Allah, min qabl wa min ba'd. That lillahi al-amru min qabl wa min ba'd. So just remember that, and we remind ourselves, as Allah teaches us in the Quran, hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, that Allah is sufficient for us and He is the best that anyone can rely upon. So hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. It really is. I do pray that Israel really are taught the lesson that they need. And it's horrible because war is never good. It always is bad. But it's just the audacity and the tyranny, the dhulm that Israel have been, the genocidal flames that they've been unleashing, and the world watching by, that they need to be put in their place. And Iran has been the only country, alongside Yemen, that has ever had the audacity to stand up to Israel. So, yeah, this has been intriguing, just watching all this game of chess unfold before us. And I do think a lot of these things are controlled escalations. Meanwhile, Iran continues to bomb and give a good smacking to Israel. Khair, let's see what the coming days unfold. Why, what else could have been some motives for Israel to have attacked? There's some theories that I'd also like to share with you. And yeah, I wonder, and perhaps I'll make another video on that. Till then, folks, take care of yourselves. Allah bless you all. Salamullahi alaikum wa khuda hafiz.